What's going on, guys? It's Ben with liftedimports.com, and today I wanted to just share some quick thoughts that I was having after reading some different forum posts back and forth between a few different people, and that is just the thought process and the rationale behind deciding whether you should or shouldn't install a big lift kit on your Subaru. And I'll explain to you why I probably never will. Me personally, I considered it and I like the idea of doing it, but once I really thought through the whole process, I just decided it didn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'll explain to you why. And just as a heads up, I don't script these videos. This is just going to be like a conversation between me and you guys here. So if it seems a little scatterbrained, don't roast me too hard. The main idea behind lift kits in most applications is essentially there's two main reasons why people do it. The first reason is literally for looks and preference. That's, you'll see some guys out there with massive lifted trucks, and I'll be the first person to say I don't mind if people do that at all. I don't have a problem with it. I don't care if people do things that aren't practical, but that's the first major reason that you'll see people doing it, is they just like the way it looks. It's kind of a culture thing for some people, I suppose. And then the second reason and most practical reason why you would install different sizes of lift kits and bigger lift kits is to accommodate bigger tire sizes. And that's the main functional purpose in most situations on 4x4s as to why you would want to go that route. So basically what happens if you install a massive tire, it may fit on the car just fine, but then when you get out on the trails and you start to flex out, what will happen is your wheels will come in contact with the body or the fenders or other components of the vehicle, and it'll damage the tires, which is not a small issue in my opinion. If you got a set of $4,000 42s, or you got some expensive tire setup, you don't really want to be chopping into them. And the other issue is it just makes it harder for you to spin your wheels because the body acts like a brake if the tire is pressed up into it. And so what a lot of people will do is they'll either do bump stops and a bigger lift, or a combination of the two, to make sure that they have exactly the right amount of flex in their suspension. So bigger tires are the main functional purpose, but when it comes to Subarus, our vehicles are designed a little bit different than your average straight axle vehicles, and we don't have forlow. Now, I've talked about this a ton, but forlow essentially is something that comes on all 4x4s where you're able to engage a transfer case that provides access to a completely different gear set that is really low and allows you to utilize your engine's torque at much lower speeds, and allows you to slowly rotate tires using your engine's torque without a lot of momentum. And for off-road, that is absolutely what you want. Now, since we don't have that in Subarus, and I know some of you guys are going to say, yeah, but what about dual range transmission Subarus? Those weren't offered as an option here in the United States, and even the ones that are available for import, they really don't even have a very low reduction gear. And so you really, even with one of those, you don't get much benefit over even like a Subaru 4EAT automatic transmission in terms of drivability off-road. But what that means, the fact that we don't have forlow, we don't have access to a lower gear range, that means that our tire size is limited. Our drivetrain is not set up to be able to shift down into a lower gear set when we're in a position where we need to be able to rotate the tires without momentum. My thought process when I was considering whether or not to go bigger with my lift kit on my Subaru was, okay, first of all, this is going to cost me a minimum of like $1,200 to do it right. When you factor everything in, it's really not going to give me any more capability versus what the 2 and 2.5 inch lift that I already have on it provides. So my general opinion is that if you want the most capability out of the car, you can still install a larger tire without having to do the whole subframe spacing and going way bigger with the lift kit, because even after you do that lift kit, you still are limited to your tire size. Even if you cut the fenders out, even if you do a bunch of other mods, you don't have access to bigger tires unless you do something extremely drastic like my buddy Jake, or like Dallas Fields, both, well actually no, Dallas didn't do a custom drivetrain, but my buddy Jake, JG42s on Instagram, that guy's got a custom built running gear that he pieced together from Toyota parts and stuff, and he's got four-wheel drive in that Forester now. But short of doing something crazy like that, we just are limited to our tire size, and tire size is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to capability in any off-road circumstances. Doesn't really matter what it is. The bigger the tire, typically the better, at least within the capabilities of that vehicle's setup. It really is what offers the most capability, in my opinion, and from what I've seen and what I've experienced. So that would be the major reason why I don't see the benefit for most people in it. But let me explain to you what has to happen in order for you to correctly do anything above a 2-inch lift kit. And when I say 2-inch, that's speaking a little bit loosely, because there's some lift kits that are 1.5. Then there's some lift kits that incorporate a 2.5-inch lift in the back to accommodate heavy loads of gear and things like that. The rear axles can usually withstand a little bit more angle because they're only moving up and down. You know, they don't have to turn in and out like the fronts do. Your CV axles are also going to accommodate steering, and so they seem to be a little bit more sensitive to additional lift. In order to do this correctly, like if you want a 6-inch lift kit, what you're going to need is 6-inch spacers all the way around, front to back, for all 4 struts. Then you're going to need subframe spacers that are 4 inches. So typically with big lift kits, you usually will see whatever the lift size is minus 2 inches. That's what you have to do for all the subframe spacing. So on a 5-inch lift kit, for example, you would need 3-inch subframe spacers all the way around. Now, what is a subframe? The subframe is essentially what holds and cradles your entire drivetrain from front to back. So your engine, your transmission, your drive line, and your rear diff all have to come down. Literally, you are spacing your entire running gear down whatever amount is required for that specific lift kit. Now, why is this significant? This, in my opinion, is significant because you're not gaining any additional ground clearance. You're not gaining the ability to install a much bigger tire than if you were just running a 2-inch lift kit. And it's a lot of extra failure points that you're going to have to make sure you get everything dialed in properly. A lot of extra work. It takes a bunch of time. You're going to have to pull old subframe bolts out. You might struggle through, you know, if your car's got any amount of rust on it, you're really going to be fighting a lot of extra bolts. And then it introduces a lot of other things that you're going to have to consider, because now that your engine and everything has come down, now you have to figure out how you're going to accommodate that for things like your radiator hoses. Your radiator hoses now have to be extended, so you're going to have to figure out a way to do that. The next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to either fabricate or buy or have somebody build for you extended pitch stop mounts. That's what hard mounts the top of your bell housing to the body of the vehicle inside the engine bay. It like locks in on the firewall. So you're going to have to get that sorted out. The next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to either custom fabricate yourself or have somebody else custom fabricate you an extended steering shaft. So what connects from your steering wheel into your steering box, that's going to have to be extended to accommodate for that subframe drop. So it's a lot of extra work, and in my opinion, doesn't provide much, if any, capability at all. That's my opinion. I know some people are probably going to argue with me in the comments. I'm sure there are some minor benefits to having your unibody up just a little bit higher, but you've still got a bunch of extra stuff that's hanging down. So your engine is still in the same place. So the person that's got a 6-inch lift, their engine, exhaust, everything is literally at the same level that mine is with only a 2-inch lift kit. So that's kind of how I arrived at the decision that, like, well, maybe I don't want to go down this road. Maybe with the money that I would spend on doing a dual range swap and a massive lift kit, maybe I'll just add something else to the garage. And so that's what I did. I still have all my Subarus, but I also now own a Jeep as well. It's not a crazy build, but it's enough to kind of get out there with dudes in bigger vehicles and get into some pretty saucy stuff. So that's just my rationale behind it. And you know, I know that there are some people that just like it. They just, even if there's no added real benefit practically, maybe you just like massive lifted Subarus. I'm okay with that. I'm totally on board with it. So if you're that type of person who just likes the novelty of it and just enjoys that, I say go for it. There's nothing wrong with modifying your vehicle in a way that you just like, but as long as you know going into it the purpose behind it and understand the reality of it, that there's not a whole lot of added, you know, benefit or capability that's going to come with it, and you just like that, that's totally okay. You guys know me, I don't really care how people want to modify their vehicles. If they want to modify it just for aesthetic purposes, that doesn't bother me one bit. If you want to do something to your Subaru or whatever car it is, that when you walk out and you see it and you look at it, and you just think to yourself like, friggin' heck yeah, dude, like mission accomplished. You know what I mean? Like if you can be more excited about your vehicle, more excited about you know, car modifications in general, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fantastic. It's just for the same reasons that people wear the clothes that they choose, wear the shoes that they like, all those different types of things. There's literally nothing wrong with wanting to do something just for the fun of it. But I will say that I've been out on trails with people that have larger lift kits than what I have, and I've seen no real added benefit to it, almost none. The only situation that I can think of is if you were going through real deep water crossings and you just wanted maybe the water not to come up to the doors or to the door seals. I guess maybe that would be an excuse, but I'd be more willing to spend my money on doing rear diff breather mods and things like that to help combat taking on water. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think about doing large lift kits on Subarus. I try to be practical and realistic when I share my opinion. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Leave them in the comments. If you have any other questions, you know, let me know. But until next time, I'll see you guys out on the trail. Have a great day.